Why didn't you get a return offer? The hardest interview question you'll ever have to answer in an investment banking interview or networking call. So in this video, we're going to talk about the best way to answer this question, because if you don't get this right, you can kiss your investment banking dreams goodbye. Now, if you're new here, my name is Sam Shaw. I'm a former investment banker at Morgan Stanley in the technology investment banking group. And today I run Wall Street Mastermind, where we helped over 1,000 students with the investment banking recruiting process. And collectively, our students have gotten offers from every single bulge bracket and elite boutique bank on Wall Street, as well as many of the top private equity funds, hedge funds, and venture capital firms as well. Now, those of you who watched my other video on the mindset that you need to have to be successful in full-time recruiting, you guys already know my story, which is that I myself did not get a return offer after my summer internship at Bear Stearns in the summer of 2007. And as I went through the full-time recruiting process, I ended up getting interviews from pretty much every single bulge bracket and reputable middle market firm that I applied to, simply because I had Bear Stearns on my resume. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't mention the elite boutique banks, well, they didn't exist yet back in 2007. So I pretty much got full-time interviews from all the top banks. Now, here was the problem though. Every single interview that I got, the very first question that I would literally always get is, did you get a return offer to Bear Stearns? And even though I did eventually end up getting a full-time offer from Deutsche Bank and Jefferies, like those were my very last two interviews that I had. And before those two interviews, I had interviews with over 20 other investment banks. All of them rejected me. Okay, so now I do think that part of the reason why I didn't get an offer until I was down to my last interviews is because my back was against the wall. And, you know, some people perform at their best when they're cornered and they're desperate, right? And so I guess I fall in that category. But in hindsight, I think that one of the biggest reasons why it took me so long to break through and get that offer was because I didn't know how to answer this question well. And so throughout those first 20 plus interviews, like I was basically experimenting, going through trial and error, and just hoping that what I said would satisfy the interviewer. And in most instances, like it did not. Okay. And so the interviewer would lose interest in me like almost immediately as a candidate, right? And some even cut the interview short and ended it early, just, 10 or 15 minutes into it, because they're busy and they don't want to waste your time, right? And so let's help you learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to experience the same thing, because after all, the market is much more competitive today. And those days of getting 20 plus interviews just because you have a summer internship from a reputable bank on your resume, like those days are long gone. Okay. These days, if you get a full-time interview opportunity, every single interview needs to be treated as if it's your last. You do not have the luxury of going through a trial and error process. Like you must get it right on the very first try. Okay. So how do you answer this question? There are two scenarios. The first one is that you didn't get a return offer, but it wasn't your fault. For example, like if you happen to intern during like a very bad market, like me back in 2007, or people right now in summer 2023, those are very bad markets. And so a lot of people actually did perform well, but the market sucked and they had no headcount and they overhired on the intern class, and that's why you didn't get a return offer. So that's category number one, which basically is the long way of saying like it wasn't your fault. Category number two, or scenario number two, is that you didn't get a return offer, but it was actually your fault because you actually didn't perform well, or you have poor performance reviews and you just weren't a good intern. Okay. So hopefully most of you are in this first category, because it's a lot easier if that's the case. Okay. So again, this is a category that I was in back in the summer of 2007, right? Bear Stearns 2 hedge funds had too much exposure to mortgage-backed securities and they collapsed, which then triggered the 2008 financial crisis. That wasn't my fault, obviously, but it still raised questions for people, because now they're curious. Was it just because of all the issues going on with the firm, or is it because you were just a poor intern? Here's how I figured it out in the end after getting rejected over 20 plus times. These are the things that you must do, and the things that, quite frankly, I wasn't doing initially. And then I think gradually, as I went through more and more interviews, I started adding some of these things into my answers until I eventually finally was able to get the offer. The first thing is that if you have any actual hard statistics that you can cite that would actually be in your favor, like make sure you cite them. Okay. So what I mean by favorable statistics is if the offer rate in your group was really low. Maybe you guys had 10 interns and you only gave out 5 offers. Maybe you had 4 interns and then you guys gave out 0 offers, like nobody got a return offer. Or if the statistic in your group wasn't favorable, like most people in your group got return offers except you didn't, but firm-wide, the offer rate was really low because most of the other groups barely gave out any offers, then you can kind of just use the firm level statistics in your favor. It's like, well, you know, the market's really tough right now, and our firm only gave out 50% offers this year. And so a lot of people who actually perform well ended up not getting a return offer. If you have any hard stats like that, make sure you use it, because you basically want to tell them that like, hey, it wasn't my fault. These are the numbers. It's extremely low. Like in a good market, the offer rate is typically between 80 to 90%. So if the return offer rate is like 50% or something low like that, even 60%, that helps your case. And so that's the first thing. Okay. Now, if you're like, how am I supposed to know what the return offer rate is? Well, a lot of people will share this information online in forums like Wall Street Oasis. They'll just talk about what the return offer rate was in their own group. So people kind of crowdsource it. Also, like when you don't get the return offer, a lot of times you can ask the people that are giving you the bad news in an effort to make you feel better. They might just tell you like, oh, you know, our offer rate is really low. Like we only made this many offers or whatever. That way you're armed with that information so that you can actually use it in your answer. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two, and this is probably the most important point, is you have to make sure that you get some references. I would try to get at least 3 positive references, or better yet, sometimes people will be willing to write you recommendation letters. These are people that you worked with over the summer. A lot of times, like if you did actually perform well and you don't get a return offer, like people will actually proactively tell you like, oh my God, I'm so surprised you didn't get a return offer. I'm so sorry. It wasn't your fault. You were great. Like we loved you. I would love to be a resource. Happy to help you. Please use me as a reference. Some people will even say like, happy to write your recommendation letter. Like if people offer that stuff, take them up on it. Okay. Like do not be shy about it. Don't be like, oh no, it's okay. I'm good. Don't be polite. Just yes, you need every single advantage you can possibly get. Do not refuse anyone's help. And even if people don't proactively offer you these things, like you need to go and ask them for it. Sometimes people will give it to you if you just ask. Or sometimes like we've even had students who didn't get a return offer and then they get like text messages from people in the group, and then the person's just like saying a bunch of like good stuff about them in text about how shocked they are about why they didn't get the offer. We're gonna go and advocate for you with all the other groups at the firm. You're the only intern we're doing this for. We're not doing this for the other people in your class. Anything of that nature, like this is all evidence to support your case that it wasn't your fault. So you need to screenshot it, have it favorited on your phone, whatever. Like if you have recommendation letters, you have performance reviews, positive performance reviews, and it's actually written and you can print it out, or you have text messages, whatever, I would bring it to your interviews, and literally you can just hand it to your interviewer when you get asked about this question. You can just show them. Or if you're just, you know, reaching out for like sending networking emails and trying to get people to talk to you, like sometimes they'll ask you if you got a return offer over an email before they decide if they even want to talk to you. Then you can reply and attach all the proof that you have to show that you're not just BSing them. So that's probably the most important thing, and that's point number 2. Now, point number 3 is that you need to have total conviction when you are saying these things. When you're answering the question of, did you get a return offer? And you start by saying, no, I didn't, but, and then you start explaining all these things. You can't be like very shy or sheepish about it. It's like, yeah, I didn't. And you know, I don't know. But hey, I got good performance reviews. That's not going to cut it. Okay. You have to be super confident, have total conviction. It's like, yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get a return offer. As you know, the market's really bad right now. Our firm as a whole probably only offered about 50% of interns a return offer. And they said that in normal years, it's usually between 80 to 90%. And so that means that there's like 30 to 40% of interns who actually perform really well, but just were kind of a casualty of the markets because they kind of overhired for the summer internship class. I unfortunately was one of those people. However, I got really positive reviews from every single person I worked with. And I have multiple references with this person, this person, this person. Please, like I insist, like you have to call them and ask them about me. Like they will vouch for me and tell you about my work. Here's actually a recommendation letter that I got from this managing director, or from my staffer, or from the associate that I worked on with this live deal on. You have to basically be almost pushy and just like demand or insist that they check your references, right? Because the people that actually did well and have nothing to hide, that's how they would behave. The people that actually perform poorly and don't have strong references are not going to be pounding the table, insisting. You basically have to crush beyond any shadow of a doubt, kill the elephant in the room of like, hey, is this person just a bad intern? That's what they're wondering when they're asking you this question. And you just have to basically destroy that objection completely. And a lot of that is not just in what you say, but it's also in the delivery of how you say it. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So those are the 3 main points. And I would say like, look, all these things, obviously it only works if you were actually a good intern. So if you didn't get a return offer because of performance related issues, which is that second category that we talked about earlier, then you're going to have to approach this a little bit differently. If you still have advocates, maybe you didn't perform well, you still have like 1 or 2 people on the team that you worked with that really like you, or, you know, that you're closer with, and you know that they will vouch for you, then I would still do the same thing that I said before, which is go get a reference from them or a recommendation letter or whatever. And like, by the way, if you guys don't know how to do this, what I would actually do once you find out you don't have a return offer is like, I would reach out to every single person that you know in the group, even if it's just people that you didn't know super well, but again, leave no stones unturned, right? Reach out to every single person, shoot them an email or a text if you're on a texting basis, and just let them know like, hey, I just found out I didn't get a return offer. Obviously bummed out about it, but I'm still super grateful for this experience this summer. Like, I had a great time. I learned a bunch. Obviously, I still have a lot of room to improve, but I was wondering if you have just maybe 10 or 15 minutes to hop on the phone, or if it's in person, like just schedule a time with them. It's almost like you're networking all over again, but with the people that you already worked with. And I was wondering if you had 10 or 15 minutes to have a quick chat, just so I can get some advice from you, what else I should be working on, and also advice on what I should be doing for full-time recruiting going forward, right? So you're framing it as like asking for advice. And then during the conversation, you're going to feel it out and see, based on the things that they're saying about you, where they stand with you. Do they actually think positively of you? Do they actually think that you should have gotten an offer? Do they actually like you? Figure out, are they an advocate, right? Are they a candidate as like someone you can use as a reference? And if they are, then you're going to want to make the ask, right? And if they're not, then obviously I would not make the ask, okay? And so that's the first thing, right? If you don't have any advocates, which that's pretty bad, but that must mean you, I don't know, did something horribly wrong. But if you have zero advocates, then the only thing you could do at that point is you will have to fess up and tell the truth. Okay. You will have to talk about what mistake you made and what you learned from it. This is pretty much similar to how you would answer any weakness questions, where you will follow what we call the SPARK outline here at Wall Street Mastermind. So the SPARK outline, that basically stands for situation, problem, actions, results, and key takeaways, right? And so the most important parts of the answer are action section, which is where you talk about what you've done since making that mistake to improve upon it. And then the key takeaway is where you talk about what you learned from this whole experience. And then so you have to show a little bit of remorse, and you have to show that learn from this mistake and you've grown from it. This is obviously not ideal, but it is the best you can do given the circumstances if you have no one else who's going to be willing to vouch for you. Okay, but I'm not going to lie, like if you fall in this camp, I think the chances of you being able to overcome the challenge and get a full-time offer is going to be even lower. Okay, so if it still doesn't work out at the end of the day, then as the last resort, you may have to consider applying for other roles outside of investment banking for now, and then trying to lateral back in at least 6 to 12 months on the job, okay, or after at least 6 to 12 months on the job. And there are many ways to do that, but that's a whole other topic, so we'll save that for another video. If you didn't get a return offer from your summer internship, I hope that this gave you a better idea of how to answer this very difficult question, okay? I wish I was able to figure this out earlier. It would have saved me a lot of pain. I would have to go through all these rejections, and I probably could have started out at a better bank. But even though it's not going to be easy, like this process is not going to be easy no matter what, many people have overcome this challenge before, including myself, including a few of the other coaches that currently coach in Wall Street Mastermind, as well as many of the students that we've worked with, okay? So if you guys ever need help with this, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We'll be happy to help you. And last but not least, if you found this video to be valuable, please hit the like and subscribe button so that YouTube will show you our future videos as well, and we can continue to help you and give you useful advice. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.